Hello and welcome to our presentation on Trivia Nation. This is a project created by Group 9, which consists of Dustin Barrow, Tyler Galuccio, Josiah Little, and Isaiah Yeva. An introduction to our project, Trivia Nation is a trivia game designed to help students retain knowledge and study outside of class. The game takes place on a 10 by 10 grid filled with 100 buttons or plots, and each plot can be clicked, which pops up a question created by the teacher. So if the teacher is teaching a science class, they can fill the question bank with science-related questions. Along with this, the teacher can create a specified time frame for the game. The game could last anywhere from like 3 days, a week, a month, however long. And within this time frame, students are given a set number of daily questions. So let's say the teacher says, I want the game to last a week and I want students to have 10 questions each day. So within this time frame, students are encouraged to log on every single day for the week and answer their 10 questions and hopefully gain the most land by the end of the game. Whoever has the most land at the end, of course, wins the game. The goal of the project is to create a fun and competitive atmosphere to encourage studying and help students retain the knowledge they learned both in the class and through the trivia game. An overview of our use cases, we sort of split our use cases into two separate groups. The first one being a player use case, which is more focused on the actual gameplay of the game. Stuff like whenever I click a button, I want a question to appear, or whenever I answer a question correctly, I want that plot to become mine, and I want to be able to see that so I can strategize where I move next. Sort of smaller scale gameplay focused things like that. Still important, but not as large as the teacher or admin use cases, which is more focused on changing things that affects the game as a whole, such as the end time of the game, the number of daily questions, or even the question bank. Here's an example of a player use case. The story is, as a player, I would like to be able to see the leaderboard so that I can see where I placed in the game. There's an estimated effort value along with tasks needed to complete said use case. Along with this, there's an acceptance criteria scenario given. Given I am a player, when I log into the main menu, then the system will create a leaderboard and display information from the database into the leaderboard. And here is an example of a teacher use case. As a teacher, I would like to be able to set the game timer so that I can change the amount of time needed for the game. Again, there's an estimated effort value along with tasks and the acceptance scenario where the teacher wants to set the game time. Given I am an admin and I'm logged in and I want to create a game, when I input the end date / time for a game and I click the start game button, the system takes my input and sets the end time for the game in the database. Our project uses the layered architecture, which is split into three different layers. The first one being the user interface, being the graphical interface that the player and the teachers interact with. The second layer being the functionality layer, which holds the logic of the system. And our third layer being the database layer, which stores the information for our game so it can be used across multiple platforms. In this design, the functionality layer really is the most important layer. It takes information from the database and allows it to be transformed in a way that it can be displayed correctly in the user interface. And it also takes information from the user interface, such as which button was pressed, and correctly formats it in a way that could be put into the MySQL database.
All right, this is Tyler Galuccio from Group 9 in Software Engineering 2, showing you our Trivia Nation game that we have created for our project. In order to start in, we're going to start loading in as a player. So we're going to log in with the username XYZ99, and we're going to enter in the password. And we will hit submit in order to submit it to the database where it will check if the user exists. If it does, it will log us in. So here we have our grid, which this is our playing board. Here we have the leaderboard, which shows how many plots each color owns. Right here, this is us. We're red, or this more magenta maroon color, and you can see we have 0 plots. Now, if you are a new player, you are given a plot for free. You don't have to answer any questions, so let's click this spot right here, one of the green plots. If you notice, it's updated. Now it's our color with our border, and here we now are at 1. From here, you can click only adjacent plots, so plots that are next to yours. And we'll click up here, and it will now show a question. This happens because we now own a plot, so we are no longer a brand new player. So it says, where is Machu Picchu located? We will click Argentina, see that is incorrect. So it says the answer is incorrect. We close out the question and we will click on it again, which is not a type of operating system. We're going to go hit Opera, which is correct, and that shows that we have now taken that spot, and we are up to 2 plots taken. The way the game works is that you go ahead and you actually can take other players' plots by clicking on an adjacent one to yours and seeing which NFL quarterback has most Super Bowl titles in history. And we're going to say Tom Brady, which is correct. And notice we've taken this plot as now our color, and it is now down to 18 from 19 over here, and we are up to 3. And this is generally the game, is you're fighting to try and have the most plots by the end of the game. This shows the information of the game, such as game ID, when the questions refresh, when the game ends, and how big you want the grid to be. So this is a 10 by 10 grid. So now we're going to log out and see what it looks like from the admin side of view. I'm going to run main again, and we're going to enter in the administrator password and username. And we're going to have it show up the GUI for an admin. So here, this is information about the game. This is the refresh time for the questions, when it's going to end, and the game ID. You can edit these. This is generated. This was going to be for the ability to create multiple different rooms that players could connect to, but we haven't been able to get to that later on. We hope to eventually, if we keep working on this in the future, add this in an expansion and make it so that you're able to create your own rooms and allow users to come into them with your own questions and things like that. Down here, we have a list of all the questions in the database. So we have the IDs here, the text here, which is the question itself, and then the answer. You can add a question here, or you can remove a question right here. And in fact, we're going to remove a question right here. So we have these test questions, which test question, text, test question, text, test question, text, answer 1. These are just dummy questions in order to test things. So right now we're going to test the removal of it. We click remove, and then we move the scroll wheel. We come back down. It is now gone. It's deleted from the database. So now something else you can do as an administrator is you can actually add a question, which brings up this UI where you're able to enter the question ID, the question text, the answer, and then these are the different options you have. You can click create question, which as of right now, it says error, question ID already exists. Let's go ahead and create one, such as, let's make ID is 1000, question text, what is my name? Question answer, Tyler. Going to go Bob, Dylan, Tyler, George. If we hit create question, question has been added. We'll go back now here. If we go up and go back down, right here, question ID 1000, what is my name? Tyler. We're going to remove that now, and it is gone. And so if we try to add a question that already has an ID, such as ID 403, we'll type in ID 403, put in a bunch of random nonsense. We hit create question, error, question ID already exists. So you can't create a question if one already exists with that same ID. And this is what admins are able to see, so they can edit the games, add their own personal questions that they want to do, and create a new game.
For testing, we mostly use JUnit. We created the tests first and then made our classes conform to the tests that we wrote. After the program started getting larger, we went back and revised some of our tests just to test all of the functionality. We also used a lot of manual testing for our GUIs.
We learned a few things from this project. First, we learned to split the user interface from the logic early on, as learned from the feedback from Sprint 1. Doing this allows for modules to be upgraded, reused, and independently developed. A clear separation lets you concentrate on each aspect of the problem separately.
We also learned to begin with the database more separated, and by this we mean not to combine too much information into a single table. It'll help you way later on into the project whenever you need to start working with different types of logic, if you can more easily access that logic in a way that makes better sense. The last thing we learned during this project is to take a better estimate of the project scale whenever you're planning. We initially planned to have servers and different rooms for different lobbies with different questions, of course, for whichever class you're working with. But throughout the project, we ended up spending more time working on the actual gameplay and polishing that out, and it took a lot more time than we thought it would have. So we ran out of time whenever it came to actually making more back-end stuff. And with that, you've reached the end of our presentation. Thank you very much for watching and have a good day.